So the White House press secretary said that calls for a ceasefire, which were led obviously by Cori Bush, Rashida Tlaib, Summer Lee, Ayanna Pressley, and some other kind of key prominent progressive women of color. She said that those calls were repugnant, disgraceful, and wrong. And I'm curious, I mean, can Biden survive a rift with this group of women?
I want to just say how incredibly courageous, politically courageous, the group of women who are behind the ceasefire resolution have been. I mean, modern American politics is driven largely by lobbyists behind the scenes, as well as, who define what policies as well as what politics you can embrace. So this group of women of color are really bucking a trend in which AIPAC, who is the American lobbying arm of the Israeli government, they're basically saying we're not going to fall in line like many Democrats, that we're being morally clear here. We're calling for peace. I think right now these women are in this position of being, looked at as, they're isolated, or they're out of the norm for Democratic Party politics. But we have to remember that one of those members, Barbara Lee, in 2001 took a very brave stand against what all the Republicans and all of the other Democrats did, which is to say that in the wake of 9/11, that the president shouldn't have unchecked military power. She was the only one. She was threatened. She was called a traitor. Yet 20 years later, people said, look, Barbara Lee was right. And I think that we have to really take a step back and say, for those of us who don't want all this billions of dollars being spent on war, that we deserve to have a voice in Congress too. So what does that mean? That means that the White House press secretary doesn't have the last word on the value of having these leaders speak up for a ceasefire and speak up for peace right now. And history, I think, will prove holding that space, even if it's not the most popular, common view, is going to be meaningful, not only to those of us now, but in the future.
Why do you think we're seeing these voices for peace coming from women, particularly women of color?
Women of color have been historically in our country and continue to be moral leaders, particularly Black women. Those who have both experienced the result of war in other countries, or who have experienced or witnessed the result of violence here in the US, understand that we have to evolve away from that. And that the moral clarity is what is missing in a lot of the conversations around what's happening in the Middle East. I went to Israel when I was a 21-year-old, just out of college. And I stood with women in Black who were Israeli citizens, Jewish women who were opposed to the occupation back in the 90s. And so I had the opportunity to visit people, not only Israeli citizens, but also visit Palestinians who were suffering under occupation back then. This is an old issue. The one thing is that it is going to become, I couldn't have predicted it, but it's going to become the most important election issue in 2024.